I mean, first win out the way, but a reasonably difficult away trip coming up, and last season was a difficult one for you guys as well. What do you expect? It's always pretty feisty over that way.
Yeah, it is. The atmosphere that's created when you play at Hindmarsh is a good one for them and a tough one for any opposition team, and it's been the case for us as a team and as a club over the last few years. So within trying to win 3 points, there's also that challenge of trying to break some bad form in Adelaide. So that's exciting in itself, and we obviously got a win last week, which was great, but looking to build on that and build on the performance and improve. That's the process of it.
PK clearly wasn't happy with a lot of, especially the second half the other night. You mentioned it post-match. You did win, but what's the response been this week? And you mentioned the crowd. How good a chance is it to sort of try and hit your straps, I guess, early in the season?
Well, yeah, I think hitting your straps early in the season is a bit tough due to the whole pre-season, the way it panned out. So I think what's key is just trying to improve from what we did last week. And the manager did say, and everyone was on the same wavelength, that the first half was a good bar, and then we slipped away and were disappointing for our standards, albeit still winning the game. So we don't necessarily expect to be playing our best football at this stage of the season, but we do expect to be improving and getting better every week, and that's the plan, especially for this one.
PK and some of your teammates talked a lot about maintaining the hunger and the like from last season compared to this one. It doesn't matter if you're champions and premiers, you've got to stay hungry and maintain that spirit from last season. But surely there has been some change in the club over the off-season, maybe an evolution rather than a reformation. What's the club like this year compared to last year in your eyes?
No, I don't think it necessarily has changed, Joe. I think the change comes from you guys. I remember clearly Vince Regari talking about our football club after we got beat in the grand final against Sydney FC, and then within a year, Vince's opinion totally changed, and that was just based off one grand final win. So I necessarily don't think it's within the club. I think the club is obviously a realist in the sense of we have won our first championship and our first premiership, but within the club and the characters within the side of the club, there's no case of complacency, or there's no place of patting ourselves on the back. There's still the hunger, there's still the want to get better individually and collectively. So I think the view of the football club has changed from the outside rather than the inside. Yeah, we hadn't won any titles prior to last year, but we always knew that there was pressure from outside the football club because of the whole backing, because of the whole resources and everything like that. And to be honest with you, when I played against Melbourne City, I wanted to beat them because I always saw them as the spoiled kids. So I kind of understand where other clubs and other players have always thought of us. So I don't think it's necessarily changed whatsoever inside the club. There's no necessary change with inside the club. There's always a want and hunger to get better and win titles.
Well, I guess we've seen throughout the history of the A-League some clubs assume the mantle of the resident pantomime villains. I mean, the Victory were it for a while, and then we had Sydney FC and the whole Sydney FC conspiracy and all of that. Do you reckon City are well placed to become the league's next great pantomime villain?
I think we've kind of been that for a while. I look at your father. Your father talks about our football club and the owners of this football club, and the oil money as such. And I understand that the backing of this football club is well talked about, but I also understand the perception this club gets in regards to being treated with like spoiled kids in a way in the past. So I don't necessarily focus on what other people think of us. I embrace what we are and who we are and what we're trying to be. And whatever people think of us, no issues with that whatsoever. What we can do is try and work to get better, but also work to improve our club, our members, our fans. So I don't necessarily look at it as a pantomime, but I am a realist. I do understand what people think of us and what opposition players think of us.
You're actually the Millwall of the A-League, are you? Nobody likes us, we don't care.
No, not so much. I'm very switched on when it comes to journalists and other fans and players speaking about our club and your views on foreign investment, whether it's in the English Premier League or whether it's in the A League. So I just have open eyes to what people say, and I have no issues. I mean, you're talking to me here. I'm hardly the most angelic person as an individual when it comes to competing on the field. So sitting here saying that I've got a clean history would be a bit silly. But no, I'm fully aware of what people say, but it doesn't affect me. I've known that for a while.
Yeah, well, foreign investment is a completely different subject, and I don't think all areas of foreign investment are regarded in quite the same way. But let's leave that aside for now. You talked about a disappointing second half. How are you going to? What have you done? What changes are we likely to see to ensure that we don't get a repetition of that? Because to be honest, but for the VAR not working, you probably would have dropped a point there, wouldn't you?
Well, it was working. In the second half, it was turned on. During the first half, it was turned on. I was told by the referee. It wasn't working at the start. So I don't know what's been told from the media, but I know Jonathan did come to me during the first half and said it was back on. So I don't know.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But anyway, that aside, pretty poor second half, as you said. How can you change it? What are you doing? What you've been working on to change it?
Well, I think firstly we identified where we let slip with our structure, with our press, with our intensity, and it was clear for everyone to see when it's on a video and it's in your eyes rather than just being talked about. So that was good to be able to see that where we went wrong, and it's about making sure that we don't make the same mistake twice. So for us, we definitely feel that. Albeit it was a disappointing second half, we did enough to squash the game, with inside 60 minutes, and we didn't do that. So, the opportunities were there for us to win the game convincingly, but we didn't. So, we will look towards trying to rectify a few slips within ourselves as individuals and as a team, but then, build on what we did last week's good stuff.
Adelaide United, they went into full house at HBF Park and came away with a point, which isn't the easiest thing to do in front of nearly 18,000 angry West Australians. But what are you expecting from them on the weekends?
Well, it's their first home game, so you take that into consideration because of a new season that they may have a bigger crowd than they usually get, which is great. I think it's always a good situation when you're playing within an opposition crowd and they've got a big following. So that's always a good test. But I think they'll be confident from what they did last week. Yeah, they went to Perth and I read and watched Carl's interview after the game and he was disappointed not to win the game. So he obviously thought they did enough to win it. But they have strengths. They have a few new players. Obviously Issa is coming back, so it'll be a tough test. We're fully aware of that, but we're very confident with how we stack up against Adelaide and any other team. But it'll be a tough game.
Gamo, last time you went to Adelaide, obviously it wasn't a happy hunting ground. Obviously got on your deck, but going back there, I guess, do you take lessons from that meeting, even though it was so long ago now?
Yeah, I take lessons that I won't argue with the referee for not allowing our substitution to get on the pitch. Yeah, we do. We have to. Whenever you lose, you either you learn or you don't get better. So we've learnt, but it was a long time ago. But we've touched on a few things that we probably did wrong, and as an individual, that's something I've looked at. But it is a new ball game. It's essentially they've got a few new players. We've got one or two, so we don't look too much into the history, but we're fully aware of it.
Joe, I think Roston missed last week's game with a bit of a knock. Has he been on the training track this week? Do you reckon he'll be available? He's available for selection,
yeah. He's available for selection. I think, him being available for selection's a good thing for us because of the experience he brings, but also the ability that he brings. So, Nuno and Goody were good last week, but, throwing Griffin to the mix can only benefit our team, and having a full bill of health is a positive thing.
Obviously, you're building that new chemistry on the left-hand side with Matt Leckie, obviously moving on from Craig Noon. I guess, how have you found that in the early stages? And tell us a little bit about that.
It's been a little bit tough because he's been away. You know, we've had a fair bit of training, but like I said, you know, working on combinations, you work on them through games essentially. So you know, him playing last week was a big effort by him. You know, playing 2 games for the Socceroos, coming back 48 hours, playing a game was fantastic. But I've known Matthew for a while. We played together at Adelaide, so you know, it'll come to speed and up to fruition pretty quickly. And when you play with a good player like that, it doesn't seem too hard to be able to work out his strengths and his ability. So we'll work together and make sure that you know, we're as good as the Noon Jamieson combination, and if not better.